This is Sky News.
Today, the Attorney-General seems to be reported as indicating that he's going to water down the proposed changes to the Racial Discrimination Act. How do you respond to those reports?
Well, look, I don't know what the details are in relation to any amendments or changes that the Parliament's intending to do. We'll need to see the detail. But obviously, the Racial Discrimination Act has served us well, very well over the last 20 years. And moderate penalties for outlandish sorts of comments and racial comments, particularly that cause hurt and does damage to people, is something that there ought to be some moderate penalties for those things. But we're not talking about stifling free speech, but we're talking about free speech being responsible and accountable for the standards and ethics that we in this society require.
During your O'Donoghue oration last night, your focus was really on constitutional recognition of First Australians, and you said that there's a risk that it would be merely symbolic and have no substance. What do you think this would do? If that's the way that the government goes, what will that do to Indigenous Australians?
The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have been an admission to the Constitution since it was drafted in 1901. What it would do would recognise the fact that we were here prior to the permanent settlement of the British, and that not only that we have a rich culture, languages, and we've made contributions to this country, and that we as a nation then fix that omission by the recognition that goes with the people who were here before. And many other countries in the world have done this in different ways. So we're just playing catch up here. It's not something that was going to change the Constitution in any radical way. The power for the federal government to pass laws for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples will remain basically the same. The preambular statement that goes to the proposed Section 51A that we've put forward is simply part of the recognition of who the first peoples were in this country.
If the changes are only symbolic, do you think that Australians will walk away from the referenda?
Oh, look, the changes have got to be substantive, and they've got to be real, and they've got to be respectful. And it's got to include both the recognition of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and a non-discrimination clause. Because you can't recognise the Aboriginal peoples and then say the Parliament should have power to discriminate against them. I mean, that's just absolutely ludicrous, and I think it'd make us the laughing stock of the world.
Do you think this conversation around the proposed changes to the Racial Discrimination Act is having a detrimental effect on the debate about constitutional recognition?
Well, Australia is a very robust democracy, and we have debates about many things. And of course, one day things look pretty dark, and other days they can be more optimistic. The challenge here is we're dealing with the Constitution. We're not just dealing with an act of the Parliament, we're dealing with the most important document of our nation that sends a message to the world and to everyone else for who we are and what we stand for, and the quality of the relationships that we want to have with the first Australians.
Dan, first to you, it has been a big week, but what have been the key issues coming through?
Yeah, of course, Laura, it's been a big week. Thanks for having us here. It started with National Sorry Day on Monday, which really marked an acknowledgement to the stolen generations, kicking off the next day with National Reconciliation Week. That's the anniversary of the 1967 referendum to count Indigenous Australians as citizens of this country. And we've seen really a flow, and that's been the theme throughout the week, really acknowledging where Australia's come from, but a big focus on where we're going to. And of course, we've seen all this discussion around constitutional recognition, how we're going to get there, what that means, and exactly how that will play out as part of the Australian story. But another big issue that we've seen this week is, of course, the federal budget. We've seen a number of cuts to the Indigenous Affairs portfolio, and of course, there is lots of concern in the community. So, Warren Mundine, tell me, we've seen that there's going to be some $500 million worth of cuts. It's been described as a redistribution. How can you guarantee this won't have detrimental effects on the ground?
Look, what the government's done, they've come to us originally and they said they're looking at 10% cuts. That was well over a month ago. The council sat down with the ministers and said, look, we see a lot of inefficiencies and waste within the system. We want you to target that first, and then look at the bulk of the money that's kept in Canberra that doesn't even get out, that's through the bureaucracies. Look at that first and then come back with some savings within the system. Now, we were very pleased that they did do that and they come back. We believe that there's more savings they can look at. Housing is a good example of that. But over the next heading into the next round of budget to the 2015 budget, we believe there'll be more savings. Well, in the area of health, there's a lot of talk about the health area. The actual frontline services go up. The funding actually going up in those areas. Where the money is coming out is in some of that a lot of it in that background, in the administration and management of that area. You're looking at a number of other areas as well where most of that money is coming out. And so you look at the collapse of the 150 program streams into 5, that's where a lot of savings in that will be made.
Dan, also 18C, what you were discussing with Mick Dodson.
Yeah, of course. This is the big issue that's dividing Australia at the moment, are the proposed changes to the Racial Discrimination Act. Mick Dodson, in fact, today said that it would further exacerbate the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Warren, how much of a problem do you see this as being?
To be quite honest, and a lot of people have seen my comments in the media, I don't actually know why the government's going down this road. I know why they're going down this road.
Have you sought assurances from the Prime Minister?
Look, I had conversations with the Attorney General and with the Prime Minister. To me, there is no doubt that there'll be a stepping back from this process, because I don't believe it'll actually get through the Parliament. I haven't met many people within the Liberal Party or the Coalition overall, or the senators who actually support this move. I can't see it actually getting up. I don't know why the government has gone through all this pain for something that's not going to happen in the end of the day.
So should it just be dumped altogether then?
Well, my advice is that they should, I don't know why they're doing it, they should just forget about it. But anyway, we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
How much concern do you have that this is clouding the waters around the broader debate around constitutional recognition?
I do have quite a bit of concern, but I also think it's perfectly understandable because clearly watering down and weakening protections in a fundamental protection like the Racial Discrimination Act is about racism. So too is the real work to be done around the Constitution. Obviously we're talking about recognition of our people in that, saying that we were always here, but the work of the Constitution is really to remove the racist provisions of it. So that too is about racism. People are conflating the two issues, and while I think it is sad and may actually frustrate, an opportunity to fix this Constitution in terms of its racism, it would be unrealistic to expect that people wouldn't say on one hand this is being done and on the other hand this is.
Look, I have a lot of confidence in the Australian people, and that come out of the 18C debate. You look at the polling, 80% of people were against what the government was doing. And so I have a lot of confidence in the Australian people that we can get through this period. But I do agree with Kirsty, it does muddy the water and it causes a lot of pain and a lot of arguments which are unnecessary and should never have been raised in the first place. I've got to give praise to Reconciliation Australia because people don't give it the recognition that it's done. I believe the space we're in now, that getting the jobs for Indigenous people, getting programs out there, incredible graduate and undergraduate programs, the support of the corporate world, the support of a wide range of people across Australia. It is because of the work of what Reconciliation Australia has done over a number of years.
All right, Dan Bourchier, thanks so much. Kirsty Parker and also Warren Mundine.